Nigga J Jalaga. Nigga J Jalaga. Nigga J Jalaga. J Jalaga. Yes, that's right. I am the best. If you are just joining my channel, welcome. I'm going to be talking to you about my time on Jubilee's Odd Man Out. If you haven't seen it yet, go watch it. I'll put the link in my description, as this is going to be filled with spoilers on who won, who's the mole, everything, kind of just going in my full experience that I'm very excited to share with you all. Okay, so for those of you who don't know, I was the mole. Yes, I was very, very excited to be a part of this, and I was even more excited to win. But let's face it, I knew I was going to win from the beginning. I had a game plan ready, I had done my research, and I was good to go. No, in all actuality, I honestly thought I was gonna go the first round, and it was just me screaming internally for every single round. It was very difficult, and I'm honestly shocked I made it that far, and also shocked that I even won. So I'm just gonna be talking about this video, kind of going through my whole thought process, how I won, how I got there, and also answer some questions, because I think a lot of the critiques against me or my fellow contestants, it was due to editing. So I'll kind of go through there, kind of explain some things that maybe didn't make sense to you guys, and hopefully you'll learn a lot out of this video. I've been wanting to get on a Jubilee video for quite some time, and I saw this K-pop one that I was super excited for. I thought I'd be perfect as a fake fan because I've known about K-pop for quite a while. I'm a music publicist. I always know like what's being talked about, what's on the pulse, and honestly K-pop is like the coolest, freshest thing that everyone is really talking about right now. So I put my application in. I was like, hey, I know a little bit about K-pop. I've known it for a long time. Never really been a super fan, but I think I know enough, and I know how K-pop superfans act because I've dealt with them before. I actually worked at an agency that worked with K-pop artists. I did not really work with them. Sometimes I helped like here and there with very small projects, but honestly I was not involved in the process at all. Sent that in, honestly was not expecting to hear back, but got an email like 2 days later. I had my interview and I bombed the interview. They asked me really simple K-pop questions, and I thought the fact that I didn't know them was the reason I wasn't going to get on. Like they were like, name the 3 like big agencies, and I was like, JYP, WXA, and RP. and then they were like, oh, well, like, who's your bias? And luckily I had a bias picked out already, which was Yves. Yves. We'll get into that later. And I said, my bias is Yves. And they're like, great, well, what's Yves' real name? And I was like, oh my God, I didn't even know they had a real name. This is my internal thoughts. So I was like, her real name's Eviana. It was bad, just really bad. And I was like, God, I'm not getting that. Like, my lies were so bad. I clearly don't know shit about K-pop. They are not going to cast me for this thing. But lo and behold, I got an email 4 days before the show was airing being like, congratulations, you've made the cut. So that is how I got on that video.
We brought together 7 K-pop superfans.
I'm not a super fan, and let me just explain all the reasons why. So I've known about K-pop, honestly, ahead of a lot of people's time. I mean, the first time I heard of K-pop, I want to say was late 2011, early 2012. And I thought it was super cool. I loved like the music videos. To Anyone was one of the first videos that I saw, as well as Girls' Generation, some Big Bang stuff. I had just seen those videos. I thought it was cool, but again, I only just watched them and like, these are cool. I like what it sounds like. And then I kind of fell off the K-pop wagon. And then I think in college, I started getting into it again. I had followed Twice and a few of their songs like TT and Likey. And then I think the last group I was honestly super kind of, I guess, listening to more frequently was Loona. And I actually did find out about Loona through Yves New. And then I kind of looked at the lore a little bit and read it. I thought it was super cool. But again, I kind of hadn't listened to Loona in like I want to say a year and a half. It had really been a long time since I had listened to them. I knew enough. I think I knew the basics, so I knew kind of where to go. Because of my long history, I think I could be prepared to talk about past and new. And again, because of my experience in the music industry, I knew a lot of behind the scenes stuff and I had a lot of connections to help me get there. Before the filming started, I was panicking because I know superfans. They know everything. They know what their idols eat for lunch. They know what hotel they're staying at. They honestly probably know their inner thought process if they tried hard enough and were big enough superfans, which is great. But also that meant I had a lot of work to do. So I asked my friend Taylor, a really good friend of mine from college. She was a huge K-pop superfan, but she was second generation, and she kind of fell off third or fourth generation. She's told me like, Troy, I know nothing about now, so you're gonna have to research that, but let me tell you all of the second generation stuff that I know. So I asked her, like what's a release process? How does debuts work? What shows should I look out for? Can you tell me stuff about BTS and Girls' Generation and whatever second generation groups so at least I look like I'm knowledgeable about bigger stuff. And then I asked her simple questions like, what would a K-pop super fan think is a bad thing for someone to do? And she said fan wars. Make sure no one starts a fan war, which is great because that's actually what Frankie said that she was looking out for. Another thing she told me was just make sure you know songs, make sure you know names, make sure you know their real names. So I honestly had a lot of help going into it. I picked Loona because I felt the K-pop fans would be like, oh, he knows about Loona. They're cool, up and coming, even though, let's face it, they're really big. I feel like there's so many orbits. Up and coming group, but at the same time, it would help me connect with other people. Because if I picked a group that was too small and too niche, I wouldn't be able to relate to someone. Well, yes, that may make me look like a super fan. If no one knew who I was talking about, then it's basically worthless at that point. Okay, so let's talk about my strategy. Going in, my goal was to figure out how can I pin things on other people? How can I stay under the radar? So my strategy was just to be really nice, be everyone's best friend, and get out the people who knew more than me or who knew about K-pop groups that I didn't know about first. So as you see the rounds progress, I'll explain why I picked this person and why I needed to get them out. And you'll see that because I got these specific people out, that is what gave me the leverage to keep going and to keep my suspicion off me, and to get things going. Now, if you hear in my game plan, I was like, if you just heard about BTS, I don't care. That was part of my strategy. If you only listen to BTS, if you only listen to Blackpink, and that's your group, and you love them, and you put all your time and commitment in them, you are a super fan. I am not here to gatekeep anyone on what it is to be a super fan. The only reason I said that was because I think other people will say that, and it was a way to help me pin other people to get them eliminated instead of me. That is the only reason I said it, and also to leverage myself and my second generation knowledge thanks to my friend Taylor. So I wanted to show longevity, that I knew about a lot of things, because I felt that a lot of people would think that the fake superfan would only know about BTS and Blackpink, which I was honestly correct. So when the round started, it was incredibly awkward. No one was really saying anything. It was dead silent. And then Andrew was just like, so, Frankie, I see those pictures behind you. And then we just started talking about Frankie's room. I didn't know anyone in the back of the room. So at the beginning, I was like, I am instantly screwed. I'm going home round one. I was like, yeah, I studied a lot. I studied Loona. I studied Monsta X. I know BTS. I looked up Girls' Generation songs to anyone. I had enough groups, and then they mentioned these groups, and I'm like, oh my god, what is that? I don't know. These are outside my main realm of groups that I studied.
What is that?
As you can see in the beginning of the video, everyone is just talking over everyone, which was really stressful. I honestly wanted to say more and I had things to say, but people just kept trying to be like, no, we have to show attention to me and talk about the things that I'm talking about. So that's really why I was kind of quiet and nervous just because I was like, okay, I'll let these people talk and then I'll have my say. Because I also wanted to be polite. I didn't want to be so overbearing and so over the top that there would be suspicion against me. So I was just like, okay, I'll wait my turn and talk, and any like little thing I can jump into, I'll jump into. So Ava in the video, it wasn't in this, but she was like, I was in a dance crew. And I said, oh, I was in a dance crew. Sundust had said, the BTS tour got postponed. So I was like, oh, let me bring in the Monsta X tour that got postponed because my friend the night before had told me Monsta X show was canceled during that month. So I was like, oh, great. I just remembered that. Let me talk about that. And then they cut out this whole part. I honestly had like a little mini monologue and anecdote. I think Andrew asked the question. It was like, what is your most Korea boo movement? And I made one up about Loona. I said I went on this like 4-hour drive about Loona, and I was explaining the Mobius strip and all the characters and how everything's connected, and we were driving, and the whole time I just only talked about that, and I realized our 4-hour drive was over. And that is how we got there. And so I had that anecdote, and then actually my internet cut out, so I left the chat like right at the end of the round. So I had to jump back in, and I was like, oh my God, I really, really hope I'm not suspicious. So at the end of round 1, I was terrified. I was like, I'm going home. I'm at least getting 3 votes. I was not good enough. I had no idea what anyone was talking about. The only things I knew were the things that I mentioned, and that was it. And I only recognized Ava when she talked about BTS, and that was it. I got into my mindset and being like, okay, Troy, who would the majority of these K-pop superfans vote out? Who is the one person that you think either drew the most attention to him or didn't? Because a part of me thought everyone wasn't really sure who the mole was yet, and we were kind of just gonna guess and figure out. I figured I would get at least 2 votes on me, so I was hoping, you know, if I just picked the right person, those votes would just slightly leverage them over me, and they'd get more votes than me and go home. And that person happened to be Frankie. She didn't have her coffee yet, and even she admitted this. So she was really not enthusiastic when she first came on. And as you saw me, I was very enthusiastic because that was part of my strategy. I know K-pop superfans. I know you guys are super like enthusiastic and passionate. So I was like, I need to envelop that. And also I wanted to put a little bit of cringe in me, like to be like over the top and almost cringy super fan. Because I felt if I did that, they'd be like, well, Troy wouldn't like do this much because that draws too much attention to him. I voted out Frankie because she had that huge setup. She had all her stuff, and I knew she was my biggest threat. I knew if she made it past this round, she would make it to the end. I will say a lot of people were saying like, oh, everyone voted Frankie out because she was old, and even she thought that. But honestly, we all talk to each other now and we had a conversation about this, and none of us voted Frankie out because we thought she was old. I didn't know she was older. The way the camera worked and like the quality I had, because my Wi-Fi was really bad that night, she looked in her 20s, and especially with the blue hair, I thought she was a woman in her 20s. I thought she was just an Australian K-pop superfan who was just like everyone else. And you have to remember, I have an advantage going into this game. My advantage is I know who the mole is. None of them do. And so it's easy for me to pick and choose and be like, okay, who do I need to get out and why? And so I knew I needed to get out Frankie. I was very intimidated by her background of things. I was very intimidated by who her bias and ults were because I honestly did not know who she was talking about. So my hope was that I can get her out first. We don't have to worry about her in round 2 with the merch, and she can go. Frankie, I'm sorry, but you were cut. Looking back, I was shocked I only received 1 vote, and that 1 vote was Jaime. It's actually funny, they cut this out, and it may have been because it was right around the time my Wi-Fi cut out. I didn't know what alt was. I only knew bias, and I thought bias meant like you had a group bias and then you had the bias of the group, and both meant like kind of the same thing. So I said my bias is Loona, which is not the right thing to say. My ult is Loona. So that is actually why Jaime voted for me. You guys have to realize like there's a countdown clock. We're all joining in. We don't know what's going on. There's a million things to put into consideration. The first round, all of us are just like, we don't want to go home first. That is the one thing everyone is worrying about. So because people are missing that and there's a lot of adrenaline, a lot of things fall through the cracks. I knew if I made it past round 1, I would do very, very well in the next few rounds. Round two, we had to, rummage around the room and figure out what we're getting. A lot of people were like, oh yeah, it's obvious Troy put those things in the box. It's actually funny. I had all of my K-pop stuff laid out on my bed that I was just ready to grab and like go. Great, okay, now I have to make it look like I'm rummaging through things. So I was just like, oh, it's a good idea to put things in a box and say it's my K-pop box, which, why? That draws so much suspicion. I went to
the Portland show, I went to the Toronto show, I went to the Philly show, I went to the Boston show, I went to the Washington DC show, and I went to the Brooklyn show.
I love you, Tiffany. I've never been to a single Tiffany Young show. Okay, so round two was all about reacting to other people's merch and just making yourself see on top. Going into it, I felt I was so far behind. And again, I didn't know what the votes were. We don't know the votes are until the show goes live. So I assumed a lot of people were still really suspicious of me. So this is when I had to turn my charisma on and schmooze everyone. So my reactions, no matter what they had, was to be over the top and crazy. So they were like, oh, Troy likes me. Troy supports me. Troy's not going to vote me out, so I'm not going to vote him out. Now, Dara, I don't know. For some reason, Dara, I felt a connection with Dara during this round because she talked about the second gen groups that I knew about. We'll have this second gen alliance thing that we'll just go with. I know she won't vote for me because I know enough about second generation groups. So when she brought out the 2NE1 stuff, I'm like, oh, I know 2NE1. Let's freak out.
Know it already.
We love 21.
Boom,
we love
boom. Got this
FX.
in
I know
Korea.
she's an original fan. That is dedication. Thank you. We love an orbit. I stand
Jessie,
her.
by the
Yes,
way.
yes,
Oh my
yes,
god,
yes,
I love
yes,
love
yes.
Jessie.
I love Jimmy.
I honestly didn't know anyone's merch that well at all.
Loona.
I printed like my purchase list.
Okay, so this part where Jaime's talking about how he went onto iTunes and did stuff for Loona and stand Loona. He also talked about Twice, all girl groups I was really familiar with. So I was like, yes, oh my god, I love Jaime. I need to keep him in. Like, he knows the stuff I know. So I got really excited and I was like, yes, you're in orbit. I needed him to like me and know that we also had this bond, this girl group bond, that we knew the same things and we were good to go.
2 signed albums from Jisoo and Jennie.
For some reason, I didn't think that was Blackpink, which I've seen the documentary a few weeks ago. I should have known that. I was like, oh wow, those albums are from like 10 years ago. Those are like rare. I know she's an original fan. For some reason, I thought she said something else and completely missed the ball on that. I don't know Jimmy. I don't know what BT21 is. I was just like, let me pretend to be excited about that. Clueless. But again, you have to make these people like you. You have to be as charismatic and excited as you can. This was the round where I needed to make up for all of like my fumbles last round to make sure I was on the back of everyone's mind. I was hoping round one, everyone would have this preconceived notion of me as like, oh, I don't think he's a fan. He doesn't seem to look like a super fan, and to just crush that expectation to be like, it's not Troy. It's not Troy. No matter what, it's not going to be Troy. So here is my signed Monsta X CD, my KCON, these billboards. I only had 4 days to prepare, so I texted my friend who is a K-pop publicist. Like, hi, I'm in a competition. I need all of your K-pop stuff. It took me 3 hours to get this stuff. I was very committed to winning, and I needed to get as much stuff as I possibly could. I went to 16 different Barnes & Nobles to get it. I did not go to a single Barnes & Nobles. KCON New York.
Am I a fan?
Troy, your alt's Loona. Where's the Loona stuff? I actually made this really long story about how I went to KCON LA. I was so excited. It was Loona's first time, like, coming to America, having their stage and performing, and I freaked out. And then I said, I lost my KCON LA bag that had all of my Loona merch that I had bought, and I was devastated. And I said, I have my new Loona merch coming, but because of COVID, everything is blocked for that time. So I was talking about Loona every single round, because another part of my strategy was to just go the alt route, talk about one group so much, just show your passion. That was a really big thing to me, is be as passionate as possible. I didn't want people to ask me trivia, because if they asked me trivia, I wouldn't know anything. Like, if you had asked me to name like the real names of artists, or I knew some B-sides, like I knew B-sides for Monsta X and Loona, like I knew the major stuff for the groups that I was studying, but ultimately I did not know a lot. So if they had asked me very simple questions, I would have been eliminated easily. I would have been eliminated immediately. So my goal was to just be passionate and layer and just keep finding things and make alliances and make people like me more. I knew I could pin Ava down later. I knew at this round, she's only talking about BTS. The first round, she only talked about BTS, which is great. Again, I support people who do that, but I knew I could work with the second generation people, the people who had been fans for longer, and we could band together and make sure that we cut Ava when we needed to cut her. For some reason, I thought Jaime, Ava, and Sundust would be like a bottom 3, and everyone is just gonna vote for one of those 3. Like, I don't know, with Dara and Andrew, they had a lot of stuff to where it made me feel like they're good. They're not gonna go home. So in my head, I was like, okay, one of those 3 are going home. I did not pick Jaime because he knew groups I knew. I can build a good relationship with him, so he won't vote me out later. With Ava, again, only talked about BTS. This was a huge weakness. I figured other K-pop superfans would also think if you only talked about BTS, you would be voted out. Unfortunately, that left me with Sundust, who I knew was a superfan. The first round, she was so excited and she had a lot of really, really good things to say, but she was my competition and she was a major threat. I knew if she made it rounds further, she probably had a lot to say and a lot of things I didn't know about. So this was the one chance I had to cut her, and that was the chance I took. And luckily it paid off and I got her out. But Sundust, if you are watching this, I'm so sorry. I felt so bad having to vote you out, but I was just like, I need to vote her out. Vote people who you think the other superfans are going to vote, but also vote for people who will be competition against you later on. You need to get out people who are your biggest threats at the best possibility that you can. Seeing people's merchandise definitely helped me.
Seeing people's merchandise did not help at all.
But now I feel bad because she loves Monsta X. I didn't know she was a Monsta X fan, so I was hoping we could have vibed off that. But again, Sundust, I'm so sorry, but I had to eliminate you. I was honestly shocked the vote was split this much, and someone voted for Dara, Andrew, Ava, Jaime, and Sundust only got 2 votes. Luckily, none of the votes went on to me. This round, I solidified my friendships, and I knew I wanted to go to the end with Dara and Andrew. I could tell they were second gen. I wanted to bring second gen to the end with me because of my friend Taylor, and because we would have more to talk about. For some reason, like subconsciously, I was just like, Dara gets me, I get her, we're there. We're on this level, like, we are super fans, we got this. And I could tell Andrew really liked me, and he was really nice to me. So I was like, great, I like Andrew too, let's bring him to the end. At this point, I had my final 3 in lock, ready to go. I knew I could get Jaime out because of his printouts. I knew I could get Ava out because she only talked about BTS. Okay, so for the music video round, I already had a music video picked out. I honestly had picked my favorite, least favorite. My job was just to anticipate questions people were going to ask me and have things ready to talk about. I chose Yves New. Okay, let's talk about Yves' name. I have always pronounced Yves' name as Yves. French is my second language. The way it's spelled and the way it's talked about, that's how you pronounce Yves. So I was like, great, it's Yves. But then the night before, I did some research like how to pronounce every K-pop member in Loona. And they went through the pronunciation of every single member. And for some reason, this one said it's not Yves, it's EB. And I am just so mad that the research hurt me in this one instance, which is why I said EV New. And I'm so mad that you guys like know that I messed up and said the wrong thing, and you could figure out that I was the mole through that mess up. Moral of the story is stan Loona. Dara even said that she had noticed it, but also didn't really think of it. But again, that was because I was so passionate. Now, you guys don't realize we had a whole minute. They obviously edit down what you're talking about, but I talked about very specific things in the video. So I talked about how important the video was and how passionate I was about it. And obviously Andrew saw that passion. They all saw my passion. So they knew I loved Loona and I really, really, really cared about them. Now, a lot of people have been saying K-pop in Korea isn't revolutionary in like sexuality and pushing the boundaries. And I don't think I explained myself well enough in this, or they cut out some things that I said. I understand that Korean culture, they are not where like a lot of European and North American, South American cultures are in terms of, you know, sexuality and breaking barriers that way. I get that. I understand that. And that's not what I meant when I said that K-pop did that. What I meant was There was a lot of like coding in it, and even with Heart Attack, you know, that video. But this was like the first instance of them talking about that. It was really important to me. I am not saying that K-pop is, you know, pushing boundaries in any way, shape, or form in terms of sexuality. I'm saying within K-pop, within the community, like the fact that they are having this gay representation and talking about it and putting it in their videos, that is what's pushing the boundaries, and that's what's moving things along. And I'm hoping more groups like Loona can push these boundaries and help bring it to the culture and help open people's eyes. It is not my place to criticize anyone's culture or talk about how to do things, but that is just why I was passionate about it and passionate about that video, and I hope that makes sense to you all. I did not know a single music video. I don't know Orange Caramel. I don't know After School. I knew ITZY. I knew ITZY's name. And I was like, okay, so they're a mainstream group if I know about them. So that, again, that was why I picked Ava, because I was like, oh, she's only talking about these major groups, because I recognize that name. I've heard it before, like from working in the music industry. She's only talking about the main level groups. That's not what I meant at all. I think no matter what group you like, if you're passionate about it, you're a super fan. If you want to identify as a super fan, you're a super fan. I don't think anyone should stop you.
Andrew.
Ooh, I knew it.
No way. I had no idea. When Andrew went home, I was shocked. I really thought Ava would have the votes and we would get her out. And then I was planning on eliminating Jaime the next round. We had the free-for-all round and I was like, oh, it's over. We're done. Goodbye. It's been nice. What you guys don't know is filming took a long time. This was probably the 4th hour. We were all tired. We were done. No. So what you guys didn't see is there was actually a really long time between us trying to decide if we wanted to do the round or not. And Paolo kept being like, once again, if you want to keep going forward, say yes or no. He obviously was tired too. He wanted us to be done, but we were just so exhausted over this shoot. So then we go into round 4. Genuinely, if any of them had asked me, Troy, name like all the members of a certain group, name this. I knew some fan chants. I knew the names of Loona. But literally anything about like culture in general, there were so many questions you could have asked that like every super fan would know that I just did not know, but luckily they didn't. So Ava asks this super long form question and I'm like, great, I can kind of talk about this. Obviously I don't know a lot about scandals. I don't know a lot about what's going on within the community, but I knew enough and I knew where to go. Specifically with Dara's cultural appropriation. I had actually done some research on this and I've known about it for quite a few years. I know certain groups who have done blackface, who have said the N-word, so I was ready to bring things and I could have talked about the conversation more, but honestly I felt like it was Dara's conversation to have, especially because I know how toxic the K-pop community is for black people in general. I have black friends who are in K-pop and they've expressed to me multiple times just how rude and disrespectful many fans have been. Luckily that has changed in recent history, but if you were a fan, 10 years ago, there was a lot of really messed up stuff that had went down. And then we got to me asking question. I did not even realize I curved like Ava's question because it was a free-for-all round. It was just ask whatever questions you want. And I think too, someone had asked like, oh, what was the first song that got you into K-pop? And we were slowly like changing the conversation. But honestly, I also, I guess, did just curve it. And I talked about Girls' Generation a little bit, and like I mentioned Tiffany and kind of tied everything in that way. And in this round, I'm really trying to sell myself to Dara. I want Dara to think I'm a second generation fan. I'm trying to build that relationship because if I can get her vote, I won't get voted out. Who do you think is responsible for the blow up of K-pop? I specifically asked this question for Ava to go home. I was fully expecting her answer. I was setting her up to fail. I asked this question and a lot of fans also got mad at me for asking this question. And truly, I don't believe there's any right answer to this. Yes, BTS is what brought K-pop to a global level and they've had all this huge success, but you also can't write off the second gen groups. If you didn't have the fan base that was set up for a decade before BTS, there would be no fan base that made BTS expand globally. So all in all, everyone is a part of it. Now, I know a lot of BTS fans will get angry, but you guys have to remember, some of you are 14, 15, 16. So 10 years ago, you were 4, 5, and 6. So all you know is BTS when it comes to K-pop in a world of K-pop. I have known about it for many years, and K-pop had slowly and quickly been making strides since, early 2010s. I think I needed to ask this question to put the final nail in our coffin.
And the person eliminated this round is Ava.
Once the votes were counted and we were not doing the game anymore, and I slowly realized that I won, I was shocked. I was like, oh my god, I did it. And I just came from this trance-like state, obviously because I created this character, I created this problem. I was super happy, and I talked like this, and I was like, no. When the mole was revealed and it was red, I was like, all right, I still have to fake it. But it felt so good. And I honestly thought they thought I was the mole once it was revealed. I didn't realize they thought each other. Again, because you're super self-conscious as the mole. You think you're coming in here and just everyone knows it's you and you're not going to make it. But that wasn't the case. And so I was very, very happy to see that in the video. Then I reveal myself and it felt amazing. I was super excited. I didn't think it was going to happen, but somehow we pulled it out, and it was great shocking them and shocking everyone. I do wish when I revealed myself, I said Nega Jalaga because, I don't know, the anime guy said top 10 anime betrayals, and I wanted to say something funny, but I was so shocked that I won and I kind of came to. I was in this trance-like state from lying so much and creating this fake character that I didn't know what to say, so I was like, hey, I'm the mole. But no, then we talked about things. They asked me where I got the merch. They asked me, what I actually knew. So, yeah, that's kind of where I stand. That's where the video is. I won, I got my cash prize, and I got my beautiful Akinto sweater. It's actually really comfortable. I just got it on Friday. I know their first launch ended and sold out, and they have a second launch coming too with a new color. So definitely go check it out. I'll put the link in the description too. I am not a sponsor, not sponsored by them. It's heavy in that it keeps me really warm, but it's also really breathable, so I'm not sweating. I really, really like this, and I'm gonna wear it all the time. They come in unisex, and they also have a personal message. Mine specifically says, life never gets easier, but you do get stronger. Don't know you, but proud of you. And so very nice thing to keep you going, and you're wearing it. So if you're ever feeling down, you can just flip your tag open and see what they say. Now that the video is public, I was reading a lot of the comments and just kind of going over everything, what everyone said. I thought it was super rude. Everyone talking about how my teeth were yellow. My teeth aren't actually yellow. I only had yellow lighting. So I had this really bright yellow thing that emulated, I guess, the sun, and then this other yellow lamp. So it's gonna reflect on my teeth and be a lot more yellow. My teeth aren't actually yellow. I think I did very well as the mole. Obviously, K-pop fans, I feel like, are the hardest people to trick, but just through my charisma, through gassing people up, through voting out the right people at the right time, and through having a very clear strategy and what I needed to do and what I needed to talk about is what allowed me to win. So future moles, do what I did, and you'll win every single time.